Hello, my name is Iworiosa. This is Garden Gazette issue number 3, Roots and Spirit. Today we're focusing in on when givers change their boundaries and there's transactional fallout. What is that? What is that? Okay, I am a giver myself, an overgiver myself. I am in recovery of that. Also in recovery of being a bit of a people pleaser. And I know a lot of you out there, especially if you're watching these videos, especially if you're nurturers and givers and cycle breakers, like you might be over giving. You're very generous with your nurturing and care and spirit and energy. So thank you for being those people. But also we need boundaries. We need good boundaries, and we also need perspective on how that really affects us. I notice with some of the women I work with recently, seems to just be in the air right now that this at the time of this video being recorded. This is the end of summer. It seems as if that what is in the air is the fallout that happens when people start putting up boundaries on how much they're giving. I've been through the ringer with that. You know, I in the past have had many groups of many friends and took care of a lot of people and was close to a lot of people. And that has, severely changed in my life. Now I like to keep a small group, close group of people, and that feels good for me. And there's been a lot of really interesting journey around that in my life. So for those of you who are overgivers, for those of you who realize that something needs to change and rebalance, and for those of you who are maybe just waking up, and realizing like, oh, like I gotta save some for myself. And this is also true, especially for those of you who are caregivers and parents, those of you who are, entrepreneurs, those of you who are creating something and taking care of a family. You, as one of my friends used to say all the time, you got to plant for yourself first and then for other people. Because if you're especially in our culture, like there's an expectation for women, even if you didn't grow up in a traditional valued way, there is an expectation in our society that women will receive and recycle everybody's stuff, everybody's emotion, which is a form of giving, and also like give endlessly. And that is not sustainable. It's reflected also in our earth, giving endlessly, and then us just dumping things into it that are not supposed to be, on the earth or in the waters. It's not sustainable, and we're seeing a lot of fallout of that right now. So think of yourself, sisters, and you overgivers of Mother Earth. How would you like Mother Earth to feel and be balanced and be in relationship with others in this environment? Think of yourself that way. That helps open the door when it comes to how do I change my overgiving. So for those of you who might know or are curious, once you start creating boundaries and you stop overgiving and you pull back from people, there's all sorts of kinds of fallout. There are people and communities, relationships in your life that will be like, yeah, that's good. I understand. There's a change here. I can evolve with that. There will be relationships that will not understand. They'll be confused, and there are relationships that will fight back. Like, what are you doing? You're changing. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. And then there will be ones that kind of just, disappear. out of they'll just go into the ether. Like you won't ever see them again, right? Like they were really interested in like what you could give them. They're not really interested in very much else. So all those things are happening, and some of them, those things are more difficult to deal with than others, depending on who you are and what your experiences are. And just know, for those of you who are changing those boundaries, congratulations. Congratulations, because what you give is such a gift. Look, we're in a culture right now that having a friend or somebody you're collaborating with that really, especially let's talk about relationships and friendship, someone like you, givers, who checks up on people and celebrates their wins and really is able to, cook for them, or it might even be like, traditional stuff like making sure someone looks good if that's what's important to them, and creating a great environment for someone to live in. Someone who can sit and listen and help endlessly and is always supporting. Someone who, you givers do a lot of acknowledging, right? We're in a culture where ghosting and non-acknowledgement is like at an all-time high. So what I'm trying to get at is like what you are providing givers, the generosity and nurturing that you have is such a gift. And it's going out of style in some ways. So it's something that it would be wise to value within yourself. Really value that, the way you give, and have appropriate boundaries around that, because you need to receive as well. I'm not talking about things being even. I'm not talking about like, I call you, so you call me. I cooked for you, so you cook for me. I provide these services that care and nurture you, so you should do that for me. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about boundaries around this thing that you value, this generosity, this giving that you do, that help, boundaries that help your esteem that's connected to the way that you give, right? Value yourself highly enough to know that this is a gift that people are benefiting from, so that if you're in a relationship with someone who's receiving that you're giving to, that they also are bringing something that really feeds you and nourishes you. It doesn't have to be, I call you, you call me. It might be that you do a lot of the like checking up on this person, brings something to your home that really supports you, or this person helps you like get to another stage in your career, or, what I'm talking about is just like how we are both giving into this relationship, so we both can receive and be nourished, right? So there's this experience that happens. There's, when there's fallout from when givers have their boundaries around their gift and they're not giving as much anymore, or maybe they're even actively asking, I need more. And I know I went through that. There are many friends I had that I would let know, like, I can't be the one who always calls. I can't be the one who always shows up. I can't be, I've done all that. I'm happy that I did all that, but I would like for you to do things like that for me. I would like to know that you're thinking about me. Like, I would like that, to know that it's not just me that is holding this relationship down, basically. And for some of my friends, they couldn't, at that time, they're not friends anymore, but like at that time, they couldn't really meet me there. It was really only about me caring for them, or they didn't value me enough to make any effort. And at that time, I was actually only asking for like now that I know what it's like to be in really nice and beautiful, really nourishing relationships with good boundaries and communication, like now I know that. But before, I was asking for minimums, and so there's a lot of fallout where relationships change, and I wasn't always quite ready for how people would react. Some people would get mad and blame me and, all this stuff. And so I want to talk about one of the reactions that I feel like is in the air right now. I've heard from some of the women I'm working with, and it's this transaction. It's this when somebody gets real transactional, when you are not giving as much anymore. And for me, this was, as a recovering people pleaser, for me, in the times I've experienced this, it was kind of like a mind screw. Like it was something that sucked me back in, that made me second guess what I had. It's something when I've experienced, that it makes me second guess, like, oh, maybe I wasn't showing up in a generous way in this relationship. And so let me explain. What happens is when you are in that mode of like constantly giving and somebody's constantly receiving, and there's not a dynamic of you receiving something from them that's nourishing to you. You're exhausting yourself in what you're giving. There are no boundaries around how you will be there for someone. That person can easily take advantage of your energy and your efforts. Not necessarily because like they're trying to do that or trying to manipulate you, but people will treat you how you set them up to treat you. People will treat you in how you show up in a relationship. So if that's been going on, especially for years, right? Or if that's been going on, especially with someone who, this can happen with healthy relationships, but this also can happen with where it really kind of gets icky is with someone who maybe is not self-aware, or someone who is really self-centered. People who have so much going on and have their lives are so full that they kind of just don't even realize how much that they are receiving from you, because they don't have some kind of gratitude around what you are giving. There's lots of different scenarios. So what happens is they're just used to it, and you're giving so much that they're kind of on autopilot of receiving from you. And so there's a very energetic thing that happens where you're outputting to them. And it's always awesome. It's always sweet. It's always something that benefits them. You're outputting. And there's not any energetic impulse. There's not any energetic cord that is even noticing that you also would like to receive. There's just there's no throughway for that. And so this person, or this community might just think that they don't have any way of knowing that this is out of balance, right? They don't know it, and in some situations, they would rather be just the receiver. And that's, givers don't hang out with people who just want to receive from you. Just my suggestion is to just cut them out. Maybe that's rash, but have a conversation. Have a conversation about that. And so that what I'm getting at is it doesn't just exist in what you are doing, it exists energetically as well. There's a through way of giving, and there's not a through way of receiving. And so there's a loss of awareness, right? And so what ends up happening is when you're I'm not going to put as many things on this through way of giving. As a matter of fact, I might even stop giving at all. Oftentimes, sometimes people don't even notice that you're not giving as much until they need something, until something in their life happens, or something is they're thinking of something that all of a sudden they're wow, what usually fills me up? What usually makes me feel better when I'm feeling like this? What is something that habitually happens that nourishes me and supports me that's not here anymore? I'm at a deficit. Something's not right. And when they discover, it's this person hasn't been giving oftentimes. And here's this transactional fallout that can be kind of a mind screw. They'll come to you and they'll be hey, I did this for you, and it's something small, something that didn't nourish you, something. I think about you. I send you memes, I called you that one time 7 years ago. When it's convenient, I might check up on you, and you really aren't doing this thing anymore where you're calling me all the time and you're nourishing me, and I'm not receiving from you anymore. And I did all this for you. And it's usually you can know that this transactional thought, this transactional pattern is waking up, this transactional fallout, because they will probably name something small that they did for you. Right? Something that is attached to some kind of an agreement, especially in communities, if you're one of those people, and I've been one of those people, but you're constantly giving to a community, helping build it. You're doing all this after hours work. You're recruiting for this community. You're doing all this stuff. And then you're realizing I don't get as much out of this as what feels good and balanced to me. Other people need to take on this work, and when you start pulling back, people are still trying to give you tasks, people are still expecting you to do things, and then when you're just yeah, I'm not doing that anymore, the community sometimes comes back as you have benefited in these ways from the community, but it wasn't enough because it didn't nourish you and it wasn't in balance with what you were giving. And then it feels a little bit like a mind screw, because it's oh yeah, I guess they did give me, they did help me with this platform, or they did, have those food drives that I was able to take home lettuce every other week or whatever. So it's a little bit of a mind screw because in that sort of transactional fallout, they're saying like, here are the things I gave you, or here are the things we gave you. Isn't this enough? And because for so many years, or whatever that time period was, that you've been basically energetically saying this is enough. I give and give and give to you. I give and give and give to you. I'm not asking for anything in return. I'm not saying I need anything in return. Of course, they would think that the little tiny minutia of things that they've been doing, if not anything at all, is enough. Why would they think any different? And fortunately, this is going to happen. This transactional fallout is going to happen with some people or certain communities that if you just sit down and explain to them, they'll be like, oh, we get it now. Let's, get new boundaries, new agreements, right? But where it gets really, where it feels icky, and where I really want you to pay attention to, especially for those of you who are people pleaser recovering and overgiver recovering, really pay attention to when somebody comes back because you are not giving them everything and says, but I did this for you. But I did this thing for you, and that should be enough. But I showed up in this way. But you've gotten this from me, right? It's as if there's an agreement there or an expectation that either you didn't know about or it doesn't make sense for the balance, the imbalance of you giving so much. It can be a real mind screw because us people pleasers and overgivers, or former overgivers, people pleasing and overgivers, we sometimes hear that and want to get, it's like a trigger that makes us want to give more. Part of the reasons that we do overgive and that we are people pleasers is that at some point in our lives, we learn that we give because people are asking, and because an outside force is saying that we need to give, not necessarily because it makes sense for us or that we have the capacity. We've been ordered to in some way, or when we were little, there's some authoritative power, or, somebody who has dominance or something like that, that expects you to give, or sometimes it's like ways morals and values are expressed to us, like be nice to everybody, keep nice, hug this person that you feel really uncomfortable about, you don't want to touch, and you don't want them on your body, and you're forced to. You have to give to something that doesn't necessarily feel good or you don't get anything out of, right? Share with everybody. Now, this is controversial because, we want to share as much, but sometimes there are exclusive things that are for us to keep, that are special for us to keep, and that don't make sense to share with other people. Now, that's not true all the time. It's very important for us to have a value of sharing, but a lot of times we see this thing where it's like people around you will be like, you have this amazing thing, and it's something that you maybe worked on really hard. You put a lot of effort, energy into it. You took all the risk. You've put a lot of value into it, whatever that is. And the people around you who are self-absorbed and not self-aware and are sometimes takers, or sometimes in childcare situations, sometimes it's just like I just am trying to stop fights from happening over something this kid has created or whatever. And so sometimes you will get this thing of it's for the greater good that you share this thing. You need to let go of whatever this is that's special to you, that you had plans for, something you're going to do with. And, that's a more nuanced thing, but it's something to be aware of. There are things that you may have been programmed to share that are exclusive to you, that are not meant to be shared with anyone, is what I'm getting at. So, my overgivers who have boundaries, be aware of a transactional fallout, right? Don't get sucked back in to someone saying, but I gave you this. Don't get sucked into a community that has, once you pull back there or have your boundaries, that they have all the reasons in the world why you're being selfish, or, whatever it is. I hope this was helpful. I know that in my experience of recovering from overgiving, in my experience of overgiving and people pleasing and recovering from that, there's been a lot of different types of fallout that we can keep talking about, and can really, if you're aware of these things, it helps you walk into this mystery of life. And that's, that's something that we don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what each relationship or friendship or work experience or, we don't know what it's going to bring. And so knowing about these things, having some kind of awareness about these things can make the journey so much sweeter, can help you find remedy a little bit quicker, can help you be more self-aware so that you can do whatever it is that you need to do to heal, rebalance, to have boundaries, and whatever it is, so that you can maintain your power, and so that you can maintain that power to create what it is that you're here to create, and you can operate more on following through with your desires rather than giving away all of that beautiful, valuable energy that is giving and nurturing. You can use some of that where it's appropriate for yourself and for those experience and those people who really will nourish you back. You deserve to be nourished as much as you're putting it out there. You're valuable, and your giving and your generosity is a gift. So, engage with it that way. So thank you for joining this issue of the Garden Gazette. My name is Iworiosa. I don't even know if I fully introduce myself. I'm an initiated spiritual guide and oracle. If you want to know more about that, come to moongardentemple.com. And if some way you're seeing this video without subscribing, please go and subscribe to Garden Gazette. You can find that at my website, moongardentemple.com. And you can also find that somewhere attached to this video, a way to subscribe so you can get these issues for free and early as soon as they drop, and know about really awesome stuff that's happening through the Garden Gazette. So thank you, big love, and we'll see you next time.